The beaches of Normandy were stormed by American troops and other troops with one of the biggest invasions ever in history. And several people from my hometown here in Massena took part in the invasion. Back in 1994, I was fortunate enough to interview some of the remaining veterans that took part in this campaign. I have a photograph here of 9 people. One was in the hospital at the time, but I went and interviewed him. They included Andor Boskor, Steve Ori, Ken Kirky, Bob Hutchins, Howard Page, Albert Bishaw, Steve Schwarzkopf. In this photograph here at the old Massena Courier Observer office in downtown Massena. I'm going to read the names of the people who participated in D-Day from Massena. Massena was well represented on that day. They included Stephen Ori of the 29th Division, 111th Field Artillery, Robert Hutchins, the 1st Division, 26th Regiment, John Lalone, Fred C. Planty, who was killed in action later on June 7th, 1944, Henry E. Dupray, the 4th Division, 12th Regiment, Leonard McDonald, Howard N. Page, Kenneth Kirky, Albert J. Bishaw of the 5th Amphibious Engineer Brigade, Andor Boskor, Steve Schwarzkopf, Alcide J. Socher of the Navy LST 516, Leo A. Patterson, Lyle F. Fleury, Roland J. Love, who was killed in action on July 30th, 1944 of the 29th Division, George E. McKindlewright of the 82nd Airborne Division, George J. Boyer, Louis A. Pellegrino of the 29th Division Anti-Tank Company, Banner J. Phillips, Earl J. Savage of the 4th Division Anti-Tank Company, Donald Spatafor. So these are the names of the people who were at D-Day from Massena. Here's another photo of those I interviewed. And John Lalone isn't in this photograph because he was in the hospital at the time. Most of these gentlemen are all deceased now. This was 15 years ago in 1994. So let me read some of this story to remember D-Day 65 years ago. Fear was the common emotion as 8 Massena area men recalled their roles of landing on the beaches of Normandy on D-Day. The veterans gathered together and reminisced about their experiences. They shared their dog tags, hand-drawn maps of Omaha Beach, and other memorabilia as they talked about the Allied liberation of France. Andor Boskor, who entered the service in 1943, was a member of the 6th Amphibious Special Engineers that day and helped storm Omaha Beach with his group. We went in about 7 o'clock in the morning. My outfit was the 1st Artillery. Our job was to clear passages through the beaches inland, he said, while gesturing to his map. I saw many soldiers with life preservers bottom side up and just floating, he noted. Let me tell you, before we went to England, I picked up my Bible every day. A buddy of mine used to kid me and say, "Hey, you're yellow, you're scared." And I said, "Darn right, I'm scared," Boskor said. Then the day came that we landed. He started throwing up the cross and the Hail Marys. I said, "What are you doing that for? It's kind of late now. You should have prayed before you got into trouble," he added. John Lalone, a member of the 1st Division, in the 6th Regiment emotionally recalled the invasion. I interviewed John at the hospital, and it was quite tough for him, but we did the interview. There were about 100 men to a boat. We had to jump into the water. That was 3 to 4 feet deep and about 100 yards from the shore, he said. My first thought was to head for a shell hole. About 100 were lying around us. Some were dying or were hit. We didn't have much time to pay attention to anyone else. Artillery went everywhere. Lalone said his regiment suffered heavy casualties. I lost a lot of my friends. I think we had 700 killed and 1,300 wounded in our division. I was luckier than the others. Our motto was no mission too difficult, no sacrifice too great. Our duty to the nation was first here to stay. All day it lasted. That night some of the guys pushed forward, he recalled. Also interviewed was Stephen Ori. Steve was at Pearl Harbor when it was bombed. And he survived every major campaign during World War II, which was remarkable. And he went on to serve the military during his whole entire life and became, I believe it was a major. And this is what he had to say. Stephen Ori was an executive officer of the Artillery Battalion and supported the 116th Infantry with supplies for one of the first charges on the beach. Everyone was scared. My job was to bring in artillery. When we came off the landing craft with our ducks, a cross between a boat and a truck, we went under, he said. I didn't lose any men, but we lost our equipment and everything else, Ori noted. The 22-year-old military veteran then said that his men had to communicate with each other by yelling in the water and were later picked up by some platform scows. It was dark. I had the men holler at each other until we had a chance to get picked up by an assembly of flat-top scows. It changed everybody's character. You knew you were a nice boy when you were home, but after you got into heavy battle or training, it changed you completely. It made you awful aggressive and a hard man to live with, according to Ori. So, this is my video blog for today, remembering D-Day.